We're excited to welcome Tim Donohue to the show today. Tim is a corporate real estate advisor, former basketball coach, and mentor extraordinaire with a deep reservoir of knowledge and wisdom to share. He takes us on a captivating journey from his high school dreams of basketball stardom to navigating the professional world with purpose and determination. Through his raw and relatable reflections on failure, resilience, and the lessons he's learned, Tim delivers a fresh perspective on embracing change, building meaningful connections, and discovering your true path. This episode is packed with game-changing insights that you don't want to miss.
Alrighty, well, welcome
number
to...
are we on?
33.
33?
3.3.
Larry Bird.
Season 3, Episode 3. Welcome to Founding Up's Uncharted Your Sidekick for Life. Episode, well, we just said that.
33, yeah.
It's Season 3, Episode 3. And we have a great friend in the house. Before we do that...
I'm glad to be here. Thanks.
Let's start with... Before we talk about the friend, let's introduce Leon.
Yes, hello, everyone. Natalie's sick.
Yeah, she's at home under the covers. I think she just didn't like you, but that's okay.
Yeah, so we told her don't come.
Take a number and get in line.
So yeah, today I'm first. So hello and welcome everyone. Dr. Leon Vanstone, rocket scientist, storyteller, idiot, co-founder of Founding Up, co-host of Uncharted, and many other things.
Love it. And I am Dan Tillard, also co-founder at Founding Up and co-host at Uncharted. And we'll leave the rest as a mystery because there's a lot.
Mystery.
These gray hairs just have a lot of history to them, and we don't want to dive into all those things. But today, friend in the house.
What's up? Good morning.
Tim. Let's just let you introduce yourself and who you are and what you do.
Well, I like Dr. Vanstone's introduction, but I guess I'm not a rocket scientist. So
hey, man,
it's not I can't.
Not everybody can be.
Casual rocket scientist drop. Tim Donohue, corporate real estate advisor with CBRE. But more importantly, proud dad of 2 little girls.
Yeah.
And really excited to be a part of this and share some things for your audience and when they're of age with them. Yeah. So thanks so much for having. I appreciate it, guys. I'm honored to be here. 100%.
Well, we asked you on the show as we want to get a diversity of like life paths and how, mentorship has been impactful for us, and it's what we're working on and Founding Up and lots of great things ahead on that. But also we understand that it impacts people's lives throughout their life, and it just comes in different waves and different ways and just changes trajectory for people. So getting these diverse stories like what you do now, but going back to 14, 15, 13, whenever you had these dreams of what I'm going to become.
Right.
What did that look like?
Well, you're asking me to dig deep into the memory.
Yeah.
Sadly, I turned 45 a couple weeks ago. I remember when I was 14 or 15, like you said, thinking, man, 45-year-olds are just old, ancient. Like ancient. Are they autographing copies of the Bible to hand them out? And so, for the listeners out there, it's definitely 45 is the new 30. I hope.
Right.
I feel good, and there's lots of wonderful things to be looking forward about, and I think that's definitely a message that is going to be good to convey. When I was entering those kind of formative teen years, after the aspirations of being a professional basketball player smacked me figuratively and literally in the face of reality.
But when did that happen at 13 or 14? Or were you still like, I'm going to be that basketball player? Because, by the way, those that aren't seeing this visually on the podcast, Tim is like 6'6". It's like we've got a history of having several
6'6" on 3'3". There you go.
6'6" on 3'3". Right. It's all, I don't know. Is that even numbers, odd number? It's very numerical. You're the rocket scientist.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Yeah, you know, at a certain point, I grew up just outside of New York City, suburban New York City, in Westchester County, White Plains specifically, and I was a pretty decent basketball player, but in an absolute ocean of really good basketball players, and so. I love the game. I loved the game. I love the game. I coached for 20 years after my playing days were done, and it was an opportunity to kind of give back in a way, kind of some of the themes that we're talking about today, and kind of pass on not only the game of basketball, but some of the big fundamental things that I think bring anyone's success, which is teamwork, discipline, respect for your opponent, game planning, you know, kind of you can play a chess match on the basketball court. And how do you do that within the confines?
May have been part of the reason that you didn't go pro. If you started playing chess, man, that's...
Well, sitting Indian style on the basketball court was never the best move. Mobility was definitely a challenge, but
getting hit in the head with a basketball.
Yeah, right. Hits the game.
One too many times. One too many times. Oh, that was my rook, sir. No, but the mental approach to the game for sure was definitely an element where for the physical limitations I had at a certain point, I had to find my path to be successful in that game. And so I think probably something what we want to deliver today is identifying your skill sets and maybe limitations and trying to work on the latter and emphasize the former. And that's something that, I quickly realized in basketball and try to apply it into my either academic or philanthropic pursuits, which was important, during those, as I said, formative years. And I realized that I had a gift to get along with people and get along with people from all different varieties and backgrounds. And so, probably
amateur hour.
I have it on silent. So
as I heard.
You saw me
if you
do
start
that.
saying too many dumb things, make sure we get the mystery call. Thanks a lot, Dan.
Oh, keep going.
So, I had this ability to kind of connect with people. And I think one of the things I learned early on was stop trying to be so interesting and really focus on being interested.
Right.
Oh, nice.
Active listening.
Active listening, exactly right. And really being engaged with whoever you're in front of, being present and realizing that, at the time 7 billion, now closer to 8 billion. Those are 8 billion stories.
Right.
And those are opportunities, and that's talking about the people, the population, right, of the planet, was the ability just to observe, absorb, learn, and disseminate.
When did you come up with that realization? Like what age? Where it's really about.
Well, going back to where I grew up in, suburban New York City, like I said, and I went to a public high school with people from circa 70 different countries. And so
very diverse,
super diverse. And so my friends were from Ecuador or Haiti or Japan or down the block, New Yorkers.
Right.
Seventh generation Knickerbocker types. And so, and I was a knucklehead kid, like I'm sure all of us were, and I got in a little bit of trouble, and I was course corrected by some great parents, and they kind of challenged me. They said, as you mentioned, Dan, I'm a tall white guy from suburban New York City with blue eyes, with married parents, and providing me a great education. That, in a certain way, puts me in the top 1 percentile of you name it in the world. Right. And so the idea was to have gratitude. And, my parents kind of sat me down after a couple knucklehead incidences and were like, what the F are you doing?
Right.
And so go out and optimize your life, man. And by that, give back, be better, be more. And it wasn't or else. It was more of a great challenge to me and saying we put you on this platform. What the hell are you going to do with it?
Right.
And it was kind of a cool wake up call. I think being just like this like goofy white guy playing basketball. Actually, I was trying to fit in where I didn't look like I fit in on the court. I wasn't as academically gifted as my brother, who, University of Virginia grad, and school kind of came easy to him. Everything was kind of like hard for me.
Right.
And that's okay. And I think being challenged is an okay thing. I think there are challenges right now for young people where, whether it's, AI or social media or the cricks in the neck from looking down at the damn phones all day long, where it's, you're not learning these social graces and these socializations where it's like, it's okay, but pick your head up figuratively and literally and realize like you have a cool support system. And that comes from eye contact and handshakes and engaging in nonprofit work and realizing the gratitude for what you have and not like milling about and like looking on social media about what you don't have.
Right. Yeah.
And so, having that personal discipline to kind of like lean into the community that you're in helped me a lot. With all that being said, when I was 15, I think I wanted to be a game show host. It just seems so cool. That Chuck Woolery always
That's
had
it. That's my life.
Yeah.
When I grow up, I want to be a game show host. That's what I'm
think about. You're giving out prizes.
That's great.
You're giving away cars, and you got a cool microphone, and like those beautiful women turning letters,
exactly, and smiling faces all the time.
Yeah. Name a game show host that wasn't super popular, right? I'm like, and so, with the ability to connect to people and, having a microphone like I do right now, like, hey, game show host would have been cool.
Yeah.
There's like 10 of them. And so the probability went down precipitously as I got more educated. But
I like the idea of you researching game show hosts. I got to do my research.
And this is like pre search engines. And so, I'm
in the library or something.
I'm Dewey Decimal Systeming that thing. And I'm like, okay, Trebek, I'm not that smart. Okay. I don't know what a whammy is, so I can't do that one. And so.
But the price is right, man.
Yeah. Well, my price never was. And so I had to pivot. I had to pivot. And so, ended up at dear old Villanova University down in suburban Philly and, ended up studying, finance, history, and Irish studies. And the last two was probably more for my humanity and the first one was more for my pragmatic wallet. Yeah, exactly. And so, but then you mentioned like, 14 and 15-year-old, but then as I got older and I got to Villanova, it was a wonderful experience about, this balance, right? Like, I think what's so cool for like young people is like your decision about post high school, right? High school is typically geographically relegated to where your parents decided to move or be.
With that attitude.
Right. We all can't be international rocket scientists over here. A lot of humble pie over here. I sit next to this guy. I'm a writer and,
that's why
I grapple bears. Like, great. No, I invented trees. Like, thanks for bringing this guy around. But, the first kind of significant adult decision is what you do right after college. And right after high school.
Right. Yeah.
And so whether it's choosing college, entering the workforce, God bless those that decide to join the military, but, or any iteration. And so, the commonality when I decided to go to Villanova, because, well, one, they let me in. There was a lot that didn't.
It's a good start. Yeah.
Yeah. They, I don't know if they would now. It's an amazing university, an amazing place with amazing people, but that commonality of sharing, like, this is my first adult decision. And I think that's really important for, the Gen Z listener that you guys are building up is, decisions are important and it's okay to be young, but it's okay to be calculated with those decisions and take your time.
Right.
You, as opposed to the guys on this podcast, have an advantage over us, which is time.
Right.
And it is a precious ally for you.
Right.
My father recently, made mention of, I was talking to him about like, someone that we both know and just that person's having conflict with their parents in their mid 40s. And their parents are like 80.
Mm-hmm.
And my father said something pretty profound. He goes, at a certain point in your life, the world stops caring about your potential and they only care about what you've done.
Right.
And maybe my age, our age, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like mid 40s. And so the point is right now, the listeners out there, you are exponentially filled with potential.
Yeah.
And so being calculated with the risks are good.
Mm-hmm.
Go fail.
Mm-hmm.
Like go fail a bunch because at least that means you're fucking trying.
You're discovering.
You're discovering.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting outside of comfort zones.
Yeah.
It's okay to fail.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 daughters, 3.5 and 1 in the absolute loves of my life. I don't have a risk tolerance like you do now.
Right.
And so being 14 or 19 or 23, oh my God, go rip it up.
Not only is it okay to fail, you're supposed to fail.
Yeah, totally.
Go fail often, fail fast.
Well said. And learn, right? As long as I'm going to butcher this quote, but something about like everyone breaks bones and you grow stronger at the scars,
Mm-hmm.
meaning, go get your lumps in and, have those experiences and those memories and like the body, like your experience, your brain is going to heal and take those shrapnels, take those experiences and like use them to catapult into greater things.
Yeah. I forget about this term. It's some sort of plate. I think it's Japan where it's
where they glue it back together with the gold glue.
Yeah. And that piece that's been fragmented and glued back together with gold is stronger than the original.
That's right.
Because of those things.
Yeah.
So it kind of reminded me of what you're saying there. 100% about
productive failure.
Exactly.
Right. Maybe that's kind of what we're trying to say.
Well, and I'll take this time to just make a note of the word failure. Society at school age, F's are bad because you're failing a class, you'll flunk, all this. There's this connotation around it. However, that's false. All of that is false because as you grow, failures are good. If you take an F in school and you say, okay, how did I mess this up? It's that teachable moment where your brain actually does the learning. And if you apply yourself to that, then you make a better grade next time. And that's the only intent of that.
Yeah.
We take and put a whole nother purpose around it, making it a negative connotation. Actually, it's just a learning moment.
I toggle back and forth, like in academia,
Mm-hmm.
try to avoid the F. Right. I think you're probably given a semester, you're probably given a syllabus, some guide rails, ability to get tutored, where you probably shouldn't be getting Fs. There's some disciplines around that. Yeah. Because also I think a lot of school is to teach you how to learn, just not the subject matter per se. With that, or were we still being recorded? I failed. So, I think in the, like one of my passions is travel. So if you are traveling in Peru or you're traveling, like I've fallen asleep on trains and woken up in the wrong town there where I was supposed to be. A failure. But then you go discover, you create a tangential point where you're like, all right, well, let's see what this day is going to bring.
Yep.
And like, or trying to start a business when you're 20 because you believe you have a great idea.
Was that idea great?
Right. Was it great? Or if your passion is great and your intent is great and your discipline around it, the world is filled with billions of great ideas. I think the important thing for the young people is to be able to capture your great idea and at least try very diligently to execute.
Yeah.
If you just have a great idea and then it doesn't work out, and be like, well, I had a great idea, and then you shrug your shoulders, the world doesn't care about you. Right. But if you demonstrate that you had a good idea, you had a great idea, but then you did the research and you tried to build a team, or you tried to build a SaaS and you went through trying to fundraise and then it fails, but at least you were like, okay, I was diligent in my efforts.
Yeah. Well, I tie that back to, all of the, you do a lot of, interviews in your, I think your podcast or the
a leadership ethos.
Yeah. And so I did a lot of that through founding Austin and all the entrepreneurs I learned from. What I learned from is that they embrace the failure because they know that's the learning point. So it's no longer this negative. That's what I meant by in school, the F is this like, oh my God. But if you just turn that around and look at a difference, like it's the place where you do
totally
take a learning lesson from. You don't want to keep doing the Fs. You want to you do an F, learn from it, get the next grade up, next grade up, and next grade up. I was once interviewing a scientist from Austria. I had the privilege of all the top minds of Austria came to Washington, D.C., and they had their conference, and I was invited in to go do all these interviews.
I love the idea, by the way, that Austria just has an Top Minds of Austria conference.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
No, I love that.
Single year, every single year. And I tell you what, it was mind blowing. It was like I did like 8 episodes. Yeah, it was. And fascinating. I remember one particular scientist, and if I'm not mistaken, it's the guy that actually started Iris Technica. Is that the name of a magazine or something like that? Anyway, he was talking about how he hated the word failure. He says, you guys in the US, you use this word failure.
I'm enjoying this Austrian accent.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk about failure. Sorry, Dan. Sorry, Double Dave.
Just take the whole point away. But you guys,
listener, if you could just imagine an Austrian accent, that would be great.
That's
Thanks.
Great. But essentially, he's like, you guys in the U.S., you use this word failure all the time. We don't like that word. We prefer the word test. It's like in science.
Okay.
Because if you stop and think about it, to make the light bulb, it took 1,000 tests. Right. And all of a sudden that puts a whole different spin and perspective on the word failure, because that's what it is. It's like you're not necessarily failing. You're just testing things until you find the right thing. And so in your, when you were talking about earlier about business and start and go and have your idea and take a stab at it and go and do the things you're learning every item around that business, the raising money, the ideation, the bringing partners in, all of that is learning.
It's a huge ecosystem, and to not be scared of it, right? Because no one, I don't care if you're just the recently graduated top of your class at Harvard MBA.
Right.
You're not like you can't be a master of all.
Right.
And so there is a beauty in vulnerability and saying what I need. Yeah. Even rocket scientists, even professional Austrian accent impersonators, we all,
yeah. And one of the things that, I was noodling on, right? What's interesting in all of that is you could say you failed out of basketball, right? Because you're not a pro player or whatever.
Sure.
You could say that, or you could have the mindset that looks at it that way. But if you take it another way, it's like you did all this work on the basketball court, and it taught you about, as you were saying earlier, it taught you about teamwork. It taught you about how to think about things, how to
play chess
on the court, right?
Yeah, right.
Do all these things. Those skills don't go away because you're not a pro basketball player. Right. You have those skills for the rest of your life. That is a foundation on which I'm sure you have built many of your endeavors that would never have worked if you hadn't failed out of basketball. So it's like if you just get stuck on this, I failed, it didn't work. You're like, no, you tried it.
That's a Lego.
You learned a bunch of stuff, and you'll get to use those tools on that next endeavor.
Not use. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Those daily. Are in your tool belt, your Batman tool belt for the rest of your life now.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. I think there's a reason why several athletes go into competitive professions. It is part of that DNA of, competitiveness, team orientation, this hard work, and not that other, my career is 100% commission. And so there's absolutely a competitive nature to it.
Right.
And so I often say, like, corporate real estate advisory is my new sport. Now I've been doing it longer than anything other than playing basketball, but holy crap, it's getting pretty close, you know? And so that's exactly right? Taking the foundational skill sets is something where you can apply, I mean, hard work, respect, discipline, teamwork,
useless
passion. Like, I don't,
never come up.
I'll just go intern back at the kissing booth. How come there's no line? Talk about failure. Yeah.
That was your first business at 20.
Yeah. And epic fail. I mean, not testing. There was not even any testing.
No customer discovery.
No customer discovery. No Yelp reviews. It was pretty pathetic. But I'll tell you, like, anecdotally, and Doc, you brought up a really good point. Like, I tested out of basketball for sure. But my love and passion for the game translated into coaching for 20 years.
Right.
And I'd say outside of my daughters, and I've done some cool volunteer work, Haiti after the earthquake, Kilimanjaro for raising cans of food for kids. But maybe the singular greatest accomplishment of my life is I remember coaching a young man, and I've never said his name to anyone.
So he's about to say it now.
And no, and you'll realize,
I don't think he is.
No, and you'll realize why. Like, many years after I coached him, he reached out to me and he calls me and go, "Hey, how are you?" And he goes, "Great." And we're catching up, and I'm kind of like, "Okay, like, so why'd you call?" And he goes, "Coach, I've been." He's probably 21 at the time, 22, just recently graduated from college. And he's like, "Hey, Coach, I just heads up, man. I've been doing like lots of therapy and similar, Dan, at the top of the podcast, you were asking about like who mentored you and who helped and so on and so forth. And, he's just like, "Hey, Coach, I just want to tell you, like, doing some like discovery work and therapy, you were kind of one of the people in my life that helped contribute to why I didn't commit suicide."
Wow.
I mean, shivers down the back.
Wow.
Right? And he was like 11 at the time.
Right.
And you're like,
you never know the impact you'll have on someone.
Right.
You never know.
You never do. And he wasn't by far, a strong basketball player, but a good enough athlete that you can infuse in him discipline and hard work and skill sets. And he was actually a chess player, funny enough.
Really?
And so you could kind of say, "Hey, bud, you know how the bishop moves diagonally? That's what I need you to do. Don't go right at the player, go to where he's going."
Right.
And, I don't recall, I think he probably made some great play, and he was celebrated by like the popular, better basketball players on the team. And so it was just that teamwork helped him feel
part of it.
And so, that was, I've mentioned that as, what's your favorite part about coaching?
Right.
And it's talking about bringing people along.
Yeah.
I don't want to coach the Hall of Fame kid that is already on their path to stardom.
Mm-hmm.
I want to coach the kid that's going to take the foundations that we're teaching and apply it to something not basketball, not football.
Yeah.
Because that's what translates. That's when you go into private equity or investment banking or law or medical school. Like, those are the student athletes that I've coached that I'm really proud of.
Right.
That have taken those kind of skill sets and applied it to something not in the 94 times 50 square feet of a basketball court. That's what's cool.
Using that framework of gaming and the game of basketball to teach these, to mentor, really is what we're talking about.
100%.
Using that framework to mentor others, and they can take those tools with them the rest of their lives.
Totally. That's it.
Love it.
I like to say that we teach like the 3 A's and not the 4th. And attendance, attitude, and academics. You got to show up. And when you're there, have a great attitude, willing to learn, be respectful of teammates. And, and then academics, it's like when you're there with a good attitude, be willing to absorb, ears open, mouth shut.
Yeah.
The 4th one, I don't expect you to have ability.
Right.
Once you have the first 3, my job as coach and mentor is to show you the real nuances of the game. And so, it's when the first three, I always want the weaker teams with the student athletes that want to apply those three principles.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fourth one, we usually end up beating the better pure basketball players, because my guys are working in a cohesive unit. My guys are gals. I coach both.
Right.
So, or I coached
Mm-hmm.
pre-kids, and now I'm not
Pre-K.
Yeah.
Now it's pre-K.
Yeah. Now it's but yeah. And now I have two chief revenue officers in my life, and they're my daughters, and I got to go earn.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. No, I love how this stories come together in that mentorship comes in different forms and fashions. It's like one of those, it's not a lot of things that I think about for our audience is how do you reach out? Because society is so much different today. And as you pointed out, we have, because of tech companies and all the things, just society in general, that this social media and things that are super important, but they also have some negative effects, or can have some really negative effects. And part of that is what you pointed out is just kind of staying sheltered behind the screen versus going out there, mixing it up and talking to some real mentors, and maybe some fears around I'm not enough of a person to go out and talk to somebody. They don't have time for me, or things of that nature, when it's quite the opposite. People, all of us in this room have experienced mentorship for us and love to mentor others, because it's part of life. It's part of what you do. It's part of just sharing this, like part of your introduction is rocket scientist. The second thing is storyteller. Right.
Yeah.
And that's actually really important.
And storytelling is so important, and that is mentorship. You're telling a story of what you've learned, and you share that knowledge. You pass that knowledge through story, because that's what makes it happen. So it's super important. Any mentors that you look up to now, or it has impacted your life to get into real estate, or how did that transition?
Sure. I think one thing for young people to kind of realize is that a lot of ingredients go into the success cake.
Mm-hmm.
And so looking at a mentor, they don't have to be all things for you.
Right.
But really being observant and extracting what you like or don't like about that person. It's recognizing what's good in them. Oh, they're great at XYZ or ABC, but they're not great at this.
Right.
And recognizing both sides and just saying, okay, I'm going to take that
Mm-hmm.
part in. And so I had three mentors in real estate growing up in the business.
Mm-hmm.
And one was the best networker I've ever seen. And he was able to kind of just get into circles. I'm like, you're meeting with the Pope again? Like I'm like, how are you doing this?
Yeah.
It was really phenomenal.
Right.
The second one was a great canvasser. And by canvas, that's reaching out to companies or people somewhat blindly to try to solicit their business, kind of more of a pure sales tactic. And that gentleman is a gentleman and educated and prepared and respectfully aggressive,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Respectfully aggressive.
Yeah,
I get that.
he want like
No one to push. No one
yeah,
to push.
no one to ask, no one to push, no one to, create. And then the third mentor I had was an amazing tactician. So you need to network to get the opportunities, or canvas to get the opportunities. And then when you get once you get this fish in the boat, you got to know what to do with it.
Right.
And craft, in my world of corporate real estate, figure out how to negotiate a lease or business terms or whatnot. And so that third mentor was absolutely phenomenal at that. I mean, there are stories, and this was back in suburban New York City, where he sold either a temple to a mosque or a mosque to a temple. And I bring up that point, like it was the ability to broker a deal between two typically opposing, organizations was really kind of, and it's beautiful. And I was like, man, that's
Yeah.
You should just head to the Middle East right now, buddy.
Right,
If you're doing those kind of,
Right.
if you're doing those kind of deals, just head over there and go solve some problems.
Yeah.
You know, and so, and you know, Dan, you kind of brought up a good point earlier, and one thing I do want to circle back to, because you said, do I have any mentors now? Several. Right. And like Limitless, you guys, you know, for thinking about things like this. And so I think mentors, again, come in all different forms and sizes and impacts. I think something that's important is me at 45, I get scared.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I get scared for asking for things, asking questions, and, you know, and really it's not the asking, it's the fear of being rejected.
Right.
No one wants to get rejected. And so when you are asking someone,
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if it's on a date or for money or for business or for a ride to the airport, no one wants to hear no, because it's an attack to self.
Mm.
And you don't get rejected scrolling, because you could just keep scrolling.
Right.
You don't get rejected like swiping on the apps. Or if you do, there's thousands or millions more right behind it. I need to emphasize, whether it's the testing or the failure, go get rejected and then force yourself to be okay with it. And a tactic that helps me when I'm entering a big meeting and I have to go into a boardroom, or I have to, you know, where I'm getting ready for the quote big game, right? And, you know, you get nervous, you get all amped up. I say, go find your Eric Purcell. And you guys might say, oh, who the hell is Eric Purcell? So Eric Purcell is my favorite cousin, with all due respect to my other cousins. Eric is a colonel in the Marine Corps. And throughout the times in his career, I have to go meet with investment bankers or startup technology companies. His office has been Afghanistan or Iraq,
Right.
getting shot at, trying to rescue soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
He's a pilot in the Marine Corps. And so, you know, now he works at the Pentagon. So when I go in and people have literally heard me whisper to myself, Colonel Eric Purcell. And then my shoulders come down and I'm kind of like, what the hell am I doing?
Right.
Like, what am I nervous
Yeah.
about?
Yeah.
I'm a subject matter expert in what I'm doing. So preparation is critical, but I am not going to be nervous talking to another human being about how I can help them.
Right.
And so I often say to the young people, I have one young man that I mentor at Villanova University through their mentoring program. And I have another one that I mentor at Western Michigan University. And I just say, find your Eric Purcell. And then I explain like I just did.
Mm-hmm.
And so I say it now at 45,
Yeah.
going into meetings. And so
Yeah.
it's okay to be scared. You should be scared because that means you care.
Right.
But find a way through it. And then if you get rejected, damn it, be okay with it.
Yeah.
You know, fight through,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a scar.
Mm-hmm.
That's a Japanese gold glue. Is that what we're, what are we talking about here?
I got a name. I don't remember what it is.
But maybe you're sniffing too much of that Japanese gold glue. I just can't. I'm a rocket scientist, man.
I'm not a Japanese.
Oh, rockets can't go to Japan now? Is that
No, that's JAXA. That's JAXA. Don't think they use gold glue, but
well, sure, fair.
I love that. Let's jump into some questions here. So I think that it's now time. Let's pretend that you're a game show host.
Yeah, time flies when I'm talking too much. I get it.
All right. So this first question is from Bella. Bella is someone that we went to, we met at ACC, and she's got her question on. Let's see what she says.
I just try to push, like, keep trying. It's okay. You can suck now. You're not going to suck later.
Right,
You know,
right.
you're not going to, who cares if you don't remember this line? Who cares if you fail that test? Who cares? Like, you can keep on going. Like, you shouldn't stop now. Because I used to be like, in such an all or nothing mindset where it was just so damaging, and I couldn't really like put a finger on why I wasn't making any progress in what I wanted to do because of that mindset.
Just lucked out that kind of talked about what you were just saying.
Weird.
Isn't that weird how the universe kind of lines
Yeah.
things up?
So it was Bella.
Yeah.
So two things for Bella is one, do care.
Right.
Like, if people are, oh, I don't care about that. No, care.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I a complaint against me, and there are several.
More than one.
More than
I'm
one.
shocked.
More than one. The lawyers are on retainer. No, no, it's you should care, and you should. There's a term, Japanese term actually called maraki, which is like anything you do with passion, like lean in. Otherwise, just don't do it. Yeah. And the second thing is, it's all or nothing. I think that's an interesting notion, and life isn't binary like that. I think, and not to be sarcastic, but like in rocket science, it is like calculations need to be exact, and you certainly comment more on that. But for so much of the world, life can be like my hair, gray, and it could be in between. And if you hopefully, knock on wood, fail or test, it doesn't mean that it was nothing. Right. It was something. Yeah. And it can be measured. Extract what are the good things that occurred from that. And so I care a lot, but not to the point where it debilitates you from trying again, testing again.
Yeah. And I heard her say the same words you heard, but I've kind of interpreted it a little different.
Okay.
I interpreted her saying that I used to get I heard her say exactly what you said earlier, which was, I used to care so much. I got so like almost like stage fright. Like this, it was all or nothing. And I froze. Sure. Right. And now I just don't care. And I know that she cares. I just think that she's learned to relax around the outcome, which is what you said. You're like, I'm going to this business meeting. I'm a subject matter expert. It's going to happen or not happen, and I just kind of flow. So that's kind of how I interpreted it. But I think all of the advice that was just said, what you just said, yes, 100%. Obviously, she's going to care about your subject matter, but just don't get so frozen and in the moment that it prohibits. It sounds like that was kind of, she couldn't focus on progress. She couldn't grow because she was so frozen.
Total. And I think that was a clip and a statement with some looking for advice. I would love to know more about a specific subject that she's talking about.
Yeah.
I think before being effective, we have to be specific.
100%.
And it's tougher for young people because kind of the world is your ocean. Yeah. But I kind of came up with a saying, if you try to boil the ocean, you're going to drown in cold water.
Great saying. I've heard the boil the ocean part, but the last part, I don't really like that.
Yeah. And like for me, it's getting back to this. I think we're talking about is, Tim on Uncharted, the product of failure, right? Like at their ages, and which is why I think you guys do such a great job with this, is the hyper encouragement to try and try and try again and fail and reject and test, whatever nomenclature you want to put on it. But I think we're talking about like the mental stamina and strength coming out of those moments, right? It's like the Big Bang. Like what happened the second before the Big Bang happened? What happened the second after? And it's like, how am I reacting? I mean, really what we're talking about is stoicism, right? And it's the world is going to keep coming at you and keep trying to slap you. And you get to decide how you react to the test or the failure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
see it as an opportunity versus like a deer in the headlights frozen moment.
That's right.
Yeah, 100%.
That's right.
Thoughts on that before we move on, Clips?
Yeah. I mean, continuing this basketball analogy, right? It's like
basketball or chess? Which one?
Chess-kit-ball.
Yeah.
No, but if
Bassesse,
that's better. It's very French.
Oui.
Je suis le poisson en la douche.
Check.
But no, I mean, like, think of basketball, right? There's a basketball. I'm sure you played in a league, right? And the teams would compete, right? So if you're like, cool, I'm gonna go to this league, and then you play your first game, you don't win. Cool, pack it up. put the jerseys away, we're done. That's it. I failed. I'm out. Right? No, we all know that's not how leagues work. You can afford to lose some number of them and still, and still do well or to win, or you're just there kind of for fun, right? Like not everything is this do or die, right? And then there's always the league next time. You could lose every game one season and then win it the next time it comes around. Because you learn
like relegation, right?
mistakes.
In European football, right? Don't you get relegated down and up?
Yeah, you can move up and down into different leagues and everything else.
There are stakes, no matter what. They're like you're playing for stakes at a certain point, right? And and so what are you yielding from no matter what, right? You get dumped. Well, that person wasn't the love of your life. There's 7.8 billion people on the planet. You'll go find another if you took what experience you just had
and reflect on it. Yep.
Reflect and then apply.
Right.
Right? Like you just don't meet the love of your life when you're 15, or some of us do, but I think they're like on farms in Iowa and but you date, you lose basketball games. You
learn from that, right? You bring it to the next game.
You got getting back to the game show, because no more basketball. I'll start getting depressed. But
you start getting a twitch.
Like that game, like Blinko on The Price is Right, and like the disc that kind of comes down and shuffles. Like that's just life. Like life is kind of knocking you around and pivoting and pushing you to different tangents and like different estuaries off like the big river of life you thought you were on, and all of a sudden it's like, kidding. Like
I'm in a rapid right now.
I'm in a rapid. Like,
yeah.
The path to success might be north, but just saying one direction true north doesn't take into account the deserts and the valleys and the chasms and the mountains like that you have to go from. The changes of weather. And so like if we leave Austin and we go to the North Pole, just do 1000% due north, you're going to go through a lot of different crap. And so the path, you might have this goal, you might have this idea about where you want to get to, but between here and there, if you're not expecting pain, well, then you're never going to get there.
Yeah. Or whether you expect it or not, just know that it's going to happen. Right. And just to put this into like a positive perspective for people, because I don't want people to be, oh my God. My coach, my life coaches put this in perspective 1 year for me, said, life is like a big movie, but a movie that you haven't watched before. Because if you watched a movie and you know how it's going to end, it's not as entertaining. It's just like you already know what's going to happen.
Except Die Hard, the best holiday movie of all time. Dan, go on.
Best Christmas movie ever.
Best Christmas movie out there. Go on, Dan.
No, but it was like, but it makes a lot of sense. Like you don't want to know exact like that due north. If it's just like a straight line, then think about how boring that life would be.
Well, it's like lotto winners, or who like it's statistically like so many of them just fail because all of a sudden like they're given literally a golden path,
right?
Or
and like 18 months later they're broke again.
Totally. Or
in
like
debt.
Or how about the people that like have massive inheritances,
right,
and then don't accomplish anything, or like they spend all the money.
Well, what's interesting about that is because where that north is, you have to be a different person than when you are today to be at that. And how you get to be that person is you go through the valleys and the climbs and all the things that you're learning. You become this person who's ready for that north place, right? And so what you're talking about is if I pulled out of this life and put on top here, I won't know what to do because I'm not ready for it.
You'll topple. I remember I was down in Tulum half a dozen years ago or whatever, and I was just like walking down, and there was it looked like a construction sign, but it was really like a piece of art. It goes, "Embrace the journey," and that's really it. It's don't fear screwing up or being a screw up.
Right.
Don't fear, like build your foundation of ethics and morals and, how you're disciplined around use of time and the people that you want to be around.
Yeah.
And then go for it.
And have that sense of adventure.
Totally.
Like life's going to bring adventure.
Because by the way, it's happening.
Mhm.
Like life doesn't care about you that much.
Exactly.
Life is going to happen whether you want it to.
Yeah,
So,
it does.
sorry, we got who else?
Let's get Santino in. Santino, also ACC student. Let's see what he has to say.
What was the most difficult part of transitioning between college and high school, and what kind of task or management should I do to prepare myself for it?
Well, I think that was appropriate.
Yeah. So
When you went, you said, and you touched on it earlier, you said you went from high school, then the biggest decision is going to a college, and there's that life transition.
For the first big decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's a great, so the question was,
How do you manage the change?
Part of transitioning between college and high school, and what kind of task or management should I do to prepare myself for it?
You want it
so
one more time?
no, good. Well, first, definitely learn how to do laundry. That
Throwing away clothes and buying new ones, that doesn't work.
it doesn't work. And God bless my mom, because when I started having to do my own laundry at Villanova, it was like, why is everything small on me? I'm actually losing weight. Oddly enough, losing weight in freshman year, and
Clothes are shrinking.
yeah, it's very weird. I do think the biggest transition from high school to college was that need to assert self-discipline.
Yeah.
Was the little cocoon of family and community that, at least for me, I grew up with. Like my whole life, I grew up in White Plains, New York. And so I had my pizza shop, and I had my neighbors, and I had everyone you always knew, and they remember little Timmy. You get to college and they're like,
Who are you?
and we're preparing you for everything else. And so having that, you got to do your own laundry. You don't want to eat today. You don't have to eat. No one's telling you what to do.
Right.
No one's telling you to go to class.
Right.
They should have.
You didn't get that memo?
Weird.
I got a schedule. I didn't know what that was for.
Yeah, what's this piece of paper for? Is this
Is this scripture? Do I have to do this?
Is this a suggestion?
And by the way, it kind of is.
Yeah.
And again, I think I said earlier, a lot of higher education is to teach you how to learn.
Right.
And it was important that you got to start to decide what you want to be, and decide what kind of person you want to be. We say formative years, and they're probably still going on for all of us, but certainly, having that foundation was really, really important. And so that's why a lot of kids will fail out freshman year, or was it the freshman 30? Because they're like, wow, mom and dad are no longer here. I mean, my junior year, I actually studied abroad in Ireland. And I remember there was a young lady who studied abroad with us, and she went to a different college. So I met her when we got to Ireland, and her father, a very big disciplinarian, apparently, and she was of Irish heritage, American, but her heritage was Irish. And her father was in the FBI, so really stern, just kind of painting a picture. But for whatever reason, he said, "Oh yeah, my daughter, who was a commuter at college, I'll let her go study abroad in Ireland because that's her heritage. What could possibly happen?" Well,
I was going to say, she came off the rails.
Rails. She went to different stratospheres. So it was her roommates, and we all lived just in the same apartment building. Her roommates, I think within the first month, had to take her out of 2 dumpsters.
Wow. Yeah.
But yeah, classy. And it was just oh my goodness.
It reminds me of a saying that my dad used to say. Well, I think it was dad, but essentially, growing up, it's like having this spring in your hand, and if you just go this, it just goes everywhere. But if you just release slowly, it stays. And that has always stayed in my head as far as how you parent and how you.
So we talk about it with Jell-O, and if your hand's super flat, the Jell-O will just fall off.
Right.
if you squeeze too hard, it'll go right through your fingers. But if you, as a parent or a mentor, are malleable and moving as the jello moves because of the environment, the world, you're able to kind of hold on. So similar to the spring. And for the Gen Z and for these wonderful young people coming up, I think, the environment changing around them are things like AI and impact on the workforce, or social media, or disinformation on the internet, or, all these different, what is ag tech? What is, even studying finance at Villanova, I didn't know what private equity was. I didn't know what venture was.
It's private.
Well, and it's equity, and I have neither of those things. And so the world, I have empathy for these young people, where the world is just noisy.
Yeah.
Is that the word?
Yeah,
It's chaotic. What have you guys heard?
I think that is the best word. How about that? Because you can describe it all kinds of ways, but literally, we had a guest on day before yesterday. Yesterday was talking about how, you think what the world is today, and he grew up and it was Vietnam. And it was like all these other things. So the world's always shifting and changing, but you can put negative, like, oh my God, the world's worse than it's ever been. And if you say that to yourself, then it is. But if you just say the world is just changing, it's noisy, and I've got to kind of find that focus to the noise, I think it's perfect, because it's not negative. It's not positive. It just is.
I graduated in 2001 and kind of had fun during the summer, doing the last summer of summer job. And September 1st, 2001, I'm going to start applying for jobs in finance. 10 days later, I had a job interview on Wall Street. Knock on wood. I didn't end up, it was in the afternoon, but the whole world changed.
Right.
And, I think probably every generation probably has a version, whether it's the current wars happening in other parts of the world that are super intense, or a very scary election regardless. Right. With all the information coming in, like we said earlier, the world is coming at you. Right. And if, what's the saying? If you believe you can, or you believe you can't, you're right.
Exactly. 100%.
And so just believe that you can and get that thick skin going.
I love it. And I think, the way I'd answer this as far as transition is, so many people think, well, let me rephrase that. At that age, when you're going from high school to university, it's like all these systems and all these, this big world is different. So you think that you're adapting to this thing, and there's rules, and oh my God, I got to do these things. But at the end of the day, that biggest transition is, as you pointed out, is self-discovery. It is, that's the purpose of it. So if you go into this thinking like, these things are here for me, they're built for me to learn my gifts and what it's all about me. And if you keep that as your true north, is like, I'm here to learn, not the subject matter. I'm here to learn how to learn this, or I'm here to see if it really interests me. If this speaks to me as a gift, or if this speaks to me as a gift. Is it real estate? Is it law? Is it basketball? Is it chess? Whatever it is. Yeah. And then kind of have that pursuit. And if you keep that as your primary, like, North Star as to that self-discovery, it makes everything else make more sense.
Yeah. And I think an element to that is keep going.
Yeah.
Inertia. Right at the top, we talked about
keep discovering,
keep staying interested, keep moving forward. I think that to me is like an important element, and something, Dan, when you were mentioning the ability to pivot, like the pivot, let's not discount like changing majors. Right. Like these are big things for young people, or, getting rejected or getting dumped or getting cheated on. To know Tim's had all those things happen to him.
You keep bringing that up.
he has a good cry session. But for me, in moments of like that acute sadness, right, where you're like, oh, like the world is just toppling on top of me. Something that brought me mitigation from that is like just recognizing, in the history of the world, very few individual human beings have only had that thing happen to them. And so guess what? There's a whole $1 billion business in divorce attorneys,
Right.
multi-billion dollars,
Yep.
or, cancer research, or, just no matter what you're going through, you're not alone. And I think to your point, like the positives and negatives about social media, part of the positive is you can find communities of support that are not next door cup of sugar, knock on their door,
Right.
neighbors.
If you look at it, if you look for them. In other words, you change the algorithm for you, because if you don't, the algorithm will make its own thing, but you've got to deselect and select things that are good for your mind.
That's right. That's right. Like, I think that's a beautiful amount of information to garner support or education. I mean, I think Elon Musk said like the greatest university in the world will be YouTube.
Right. Yeah. YouTube you.
That's right.
Dr. Leon Vanstone, let's give you the last comment before we wrap this up.
In
That
your
was my-
best Austrian accent,
Yes.
please.
Get to the chopper. We're running out of time.
See, that I
That was
understood.
good.
That I got.
I am
Finally.
I'm European.
I'll be
after all.
back.
I'll be back. I do not like this talk of failure. Anyway, not known for my accents, except for
That was
my
pretty
accent.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Weird, because that's exactly what it is.
I made it myself. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going back, I suppose, to the question. Yeah, and just maybe a similar theme is when you go to university or whatever you do when you leave high school, right?
Right.
And the training wheels come off, and you move out of your parents' house. It's that realization, as you said, like, oh, if I don't eat today, I don't eat. There's no one checking in. Right. If I sat in a dumpster, I mean, maybe you got some good friends, pick you out, but otherwise you'll wake up in a dumpster. Like,
If I stay up too late at night and can't wake up in the morning, that's on me.
yeah, no, that is, and that'll happen.
No one's checking the consequences.
Right.
Right. So it is now on you. It is you now. The first time you are actually responsible for your life.
Self-performing.
And care enough to do something and to learn from your mistakes. Don't care too much that a single failure paralyzes you and you refuse to play the game, And honestly, there's not really a good system. It's you have to go and you have to kind of suck at it.
Yeah.
Because there's no manual, there's no YouTube you're going to watch that's going to tell you how to be responsible and how to care. You're going to have to figure.
But I think there's rules for that amorphous system.
There's the one thing that I suppose that's worth recognizing. So it's like Dan said with the algorithm, right? There are so many ways of dealing with it. And those different ways, there's not one, there's no one, it's not, otherwise the self-help section would be one book.
Right.
Right. If people thought like that. And so you're going to have to go, ask for help.
Yeah.
Find these things, go to YouTube, look for stuff, find constructive things that suggest ideas and try them out.
But if we were to boil down the self-help section, right, no matter what, I think it would be care, but not care too much to the point of paralyzation, like I said. Keep moving forward, right?
Just never stop. Right?
Never stop, right? Morality, right? Doc, I think you said like the foundation earlier.
Right.
Like, get out of we could go to the self-help section all day long, but I think what we're talking about, like, what are the half a dozen pillars that every successful person, every happy person have been able to that no matter what, when it boils it down, these are
the things. Yeah.
And it's,
well, and I think you said something at the very beginning of this episode that was very insightful, which is at some point, it was not about me, it was about caring about someone else. And if we're talking about these pillars, why are we doing this? Is that we care about this entire generation, Gen Z. We care about everybody else. But at this point in our lives, it's so important to storytell. It's so important to mentor. It's so important to help another generation because we know there's challenges there.
Yeah.
And what we're doing is bringing guests in and let's share some of the knowledge that we've picked up along the road and put it out there so that someone in the audience, just like that person that called you at 21 and said you had this impact for me. If what we're doing through these podcasts does that for someone, then mission accomplished, because it helps them.
In the I don't want to say darkest, because it's been a really great life so far and will continue to be, but like in pain points in my life, I made a decision to go volunteer.
Yeah.
And so, I had like a bad injury from something or other, and I went to a children's hospital. Yeah. And, I had a bad wrist injury. These poor kids are never going to walk.
Right.
And they're happy though.
Yeah.
And so when you start to realize that other people are going through it, to give back, give out some smiles, and you'll get exponentially more back. Yeah. We're in this together.
That's right. That's funny that you mentioned that. We were talking to an individual a few months ago, and I was like, how are you changing the world? Just kind of a random question. And he's like, smile. I smile every day. And you think about that. Look at that smile. Oh, that's changing the world.
Okay. Can we change it back? Can we change it back?
That's in October.
Change it back.
That's a Halloween smile right there.
Unchange? Rechange? Changer?
But to what you said earlier is just even as something as, and I thought about that for a second, as something as small that's contagious as a smile. If you can just share that for someone's day, that may be all they need. So wonderful comments. Wonderful having you on the podcast.
No, thank you, guys.
This has been a great conversation.
This is great. I wish we could do it all in Austrian accents, but different podcast apparently.
No, for sure.
Thank you, guys. This is great. I appreciate it. I hope it helped. It's a pleasure.
When we get that letter in the mail saying Tim said this, and
yeah,
we'll make sure that,
if it's certified, don't open it. I can't.
Life lessons, folks.
I got too much on my Japanese food plate.
Letters, don't sign for
do not
them.
do not touch it. Do not open it.
I'll be in a non-extradition. Well, never mind. No, but I appreciate it, guys.
Different
podcast altogether.
And that's a wrap for episode 3 of season 3.
Embracing the journey, learning from failures, and forging meaningful connections, Tim's story is a powerful reminder of the resilience it takes to navigate life's uncharted paths. His mentorship mantra, care deeply but keep moving, challenges us all to embrace setbacks as opportunities and keep striving toward growth. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend, subscribe, and leave us a review. Have a question or want to join us as a Gen Z contributor? Check out the show notes for details. Until next time, keep exploring, keep striving, and remember, you're never alone on this journey.